Good evening, everybody. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science. Welcome to our Thursday evening Louise Hay gathering at First Church. We're grateful to everyone who is joining us this evening on our large Zoom call. I'm also grateful, and I want to give a shout out to everybody who's watching us on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube. We get all of your comments, and we're appreciative of all your goodwill. Some of you are supporting us financially, so there's donation options on all of the social media sites. So we're grateful for anything anyone does. Thank you also, all of you, for making us such a large spiritual community of like-minded people. I believe we're one of the biggest in the country, if not the world. So we thank you for your support, your goodwill, your comments, and all your wonderful questions as well. This lesson is entitled From Traditional to Transformative, Healing, Self-Healing, Using New Thought Principles. This church, as many of you know, was the spiritual home of Raymond Charles Barker, the founder, the author also of the book, The Power of Decision. We get all your messages on this class and as well as the others. And so we're grateful for all your, the time you take to write these letters, the poems, the things you send us. For those of you who cannot be with us on the Zoom, you can watch our gatherings 24 hours a day, free of charge on Facebook and YouTube. After every lesson, there's an opportunity in our community time for personal sharing. So please stay afterwards if you have time. Say hello if you're new. Share your thoughts. Usually on Thursday, I'll ask, what has it been like being you this week? So you are able to share what your demonstrations are or what you're dealing with, so we can support you. And again, for those who want to support our work, in the chat next to the screen, there will be 2 or 3 options there for you to do so. We appreciate everything that you do. I think I've said that at least once already, so thank you again. Thank you for being here. So let's begin our journey with self-healing. I have a little poem for us tonight, which is called Awakening Light. In the quiet of the morning light, a whisper calls, soft and bright. Infinite love within us stirs, a gentle truth that reassures. We are one with all that's true, guided by a force that's always new. In every heart, a healing starts. With love and faith, we do our part. Let go of fear, release the past. In this moment, peace will last. Embrace the self with tender care, for within, the divine is there. So here we are in another Thursday evening. Welcome for those of you who signed in. If you're here in a Louise Hay class, there's an old expression, there's no accident that you found a place like this, a new thought center like this. People show up, they say the right time, perfect place. So if you're here, there must be a reason you're here. Many of you sign on to any one of the things we do in social media, and we'll send you a reminder, and some of you respond. However you got here, I'm glad you got here. I'm glad you found us. A little bit about myself and Louise Hay and how it started. Many years ago, I found myself at a Unity church with a large marquee. I was on that street for about a week, and as I recall this story, this Unity church had a huge marquee, and on it was the title of Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. Coincidentally, a week or 2 before, someone had handed me a cassette with the same title, You Can Heal Your Life. I always tended to pay attention to coincidences and any serendipitous experience when things start happening magically, or what appears to be magically. I pay attention. So I don't have the exact day, I wish I did, but it was around 1985 or 6, probably 1986. a year or so after the book You Can Heal Your Life came out. Before that, I was learning New Thought on my own. I would study books like Think and Grow Rich, philosophy, a little bit of mysticism, and I would drift from place to place. I was reading Emerson before I got myself involved in any of this. And I was learning New Thought principles without even knowing that I was. I wound up in this Unity Church, which was a perfect destination for me because I happened to come from a Catholic family. And Unity Church used the same New Testament that I had been reading all my life. The only thing is, Unity takes the same New Testament in the four, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and it reinterprets metaphysically. It interprets these ancient texts. And that was all very helpful to me. And I often have wondered if I ever would have made it this far in New Thought or with religious science or my studies in mysticism and all the things I've learned since if I hadn't found the Louise Hay class at that Unity Church first. It's sometimes very difficult for people to move away from their traditional churches. I've been studying a lot because I'm doing another course and maybe writing part of a book about this. It's sometimes difficult for people to migrate from the church of their youth. In my case, there were generations of people that were raised in that faith. My ancestors all came from Ireland, and they were all, of that faith, and they came to New England, and we had priests, we had nuns, we had everybody teaching all of us. So it was a little bit difficult to move from that, and many of you haven't had that background. Some of you can identify with me, but there was a saying from the Catholic Church when I was younger. I looked it up for you. It says, "Give me a child until he or she is 7, and I will show you the man or the woman." So I guess as I interpret that, once they have you and they program you and you learn the doctrine and the theology, they think they have you forever. And what this does is it highlights the deep roots of our childhood teachings. And that's something that we're up against every single week in the Louise Hay class, because people really want to heal their lives. People are longing for more. They want to express life more abundantly, more joyously, more freely. And what we're up against in almost every lesson that I come up with, quoting Louise Hay, and all she would say, the bottom line for people is they don't feel good enough. What we're up against is a bunch of beliefs. I've played with that word over the past 20 years, beliefs, BS. You know what BS stands for. We're up against all of that. And it's been there for a long time. And we do make progress because we've been given the gift of freedom, free thought. So we can choose and we can choose again. That being said, there is this underlying body of beliefs in our, I'll call it subconscious. And in the Science of Mind, we teach you about the power of the word. We teach you about that you have the power to get in the driver's seat. You can heal your life, is what Louise Hay would say. Ernest Holmes would say there's power for good in the universe greater than you are, of which you are part. And then he would say you can definitely use this power. So it's dynamic. It's not simply meditation. It's about self-realization. Once you begin to realize and understand who you are, then you can begin to use this power to create your life in any way you choose. But I'm just explaining a little context. At least in my case, there was a lot of programming going on when I was a younger kid. I happened to be an altar boy. I was all those things. So I bought it hook, line, and sinker, or maybe I didn't buy it. Maybe it was taught to me and I didn't know enough to question it. So that was the quote, "Give me a child until I'll add he or she is 7, and I will show you the man or woman." So I do this so you can understand where this all starts. This highlights the deep roots, once again, of these childhood teachings And I believe we acquire them during these years, and so did Louise, and how these very beliefs and these belief systems impact our lives. Mark Twain once said, "It's easier to fool people than to convince them that I'll say it again. It's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled." I had to think about that a little bit. So I guess what Twain would be saying is, I was fooled. And it's tough to have people break away from that if they grew up in a traditional belief system. But I broke away from it because it was very clear to me that the church I was supporting and going to wasn't supporting me at all. The church had me, a sinner since the day I was born, and fortunately, I don't think about that stuff very much anymore. But I bring it up because I know a lot of you are here and you've come out of some of these various faiths that are steeped in dogma. So Twain's quote, and before, his quote speaks to the challenge of questioning deeply ingrained beliefs. Most of you are here because in a class like this because you've already questioned some of the beliefs that you had when you were younger. George Orwell, I looked up for you, in his work on totalitarianism, noted, "Orthodoxy means not thinking." And say, I've always been thinking. And that's what Emerson was always encouraging us to do, as you well know, I quote him all the time, where he says, "God help us when a thinker is let loose upon the countryside." He said, nothing is safe, because if you're questioning everything, you're looking for what's new. You're looking to improve. You're looking to improve yourself. You're looking to improve your thinking. But Orwell, in his book, noted orthodoxy means not thinking, not needing to think. That's even worse. Orthodoxy is unconsciousness. I'm thinking of one of my sisters. She doesn't want to question religion. She doesn't want to think about it. She doesn't want to need to think about it. So this type of phenomena reflects the comfort zones that people find in adhering to traditional beliefs without questioning them. Half of my family was like that in the faith I grew up. They would just go through rote prayers, and they would do what has been done for generations. I guess that wasn't going to work for me, and I bought into the idea that Louise Hay would say, you can heal your life. Deep at the center of your being, there's an infinite love of well of love. I also bought into the practitioners who told me that the universe so loves me that it responds to my every thought. The traditional beliefs that I had as a child, the God was different. The God could be all loving, and it could be a whole bunch of other things too. So breaking away from those traditional religions often involves confronting these deeply rooted beliefs and finding the courage to explore new spiritual paths. It requires questioning what we're taught as children and being open to new perspectives. Now, that's what we do mostly every week. When I ask you to change in the lesser ideas that you've been hanging on to for the greater, forgiving everybody, letting everything go. So with me, I began to understand that each of us is an aspect of this divine energy. We're one with the one. Each of us are part of this divine love, and that we're all in it together. We're individualizations of this life. As I recall, many years ago, I said it started with unity. It was very, very helpful for me because I don't think I would have known what anybody was talking about in a religious science center in the beginning. When I first got to a religious science center, or science of mind center as they were called, I didn't know what the thing itself meant, which is the part of the beginning of our chapter. Ernest Holmes wasn't going to call God or Jesus or Jehovah. He didn't want to put a name on it. So he referred to it as the thing itself and what it does and how it works and things like that. At that point in my life, when I was younger, I had such a naive idea of what a higher power was. I thought it was all powerful, all punishing, and that, again, as I said, I was born in sin. And many of you coming out of this Judeo-Christian system had similar beliefs about a powerful, judgmental God. And sometimes all loving, right? And when I started studying, they taught me there's only, again, one power, one energy, one love in the universe. And that love, that energy, that power is deep at the center of my being. And that we learn here that we're on a spiritual journey, and what we're looking for is always here. It's always within us. But I was challenged at that time to release the need to think that there's anything opposing me. Because I was brought up in that faith where there was duality. There was a power for evil, there's a power for good, and all of that. And what we come to in religious science, as we learn to love our life, love ourselves, and heal our life with Louise Hay, that there's one power. And that power is in us, operating through us, responding to us. So as I was learning, I later learned that the universe so loves me that it responds to my every thought. I've told you this story before. How about that? I'll give you the same message that was given to me all those years ago. The universe so loves you that it responds to your every thought. It doesn't miss a single one. Every thought you think, Louise would say, is creating your future. That came from, as I've said many times before, a practitioner, Mary Curwitz in Florida. She took me on as a project for a year, maybe two. She told me that when I was younger, what I was learning from the nuns, she said I was a very spiritual kid, but she said I was praying to a lesser idea of God, which was a God that would maybe fix me, possibly save me, or maybe intervene in my life. She taught me what foxhole prayers were, which is basically when I was in a lot of trouble, I would pray. And what I learned from her was immensely important. She said, what we learn here in religious science and what we learn here from Louise Hay is very simple. Louise would say it's all very simple. What you give out in your day-to-day living comes back to you. If you have a consciousness that's full of anger and hate, and you're complaining, and you're just miserable, and you're putting that out day after day, you're sowing seeds, and it comes back. You're creating your life with that. I've played with this theme over the years in many classes. I've used characters like Chicken Little, which, you know, Chicken Little, I don't know if it's a male or female, but the story is, well, I'll make it a he this time. He was screaming, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. So if your consciousness is always complaint or criticism, what you're putting out there comes back to you. So we got to learn how to be kind to our mind. We have to, when I say have to, I don't mean you really have to. What we want to do is we want to take our power back. We want to learn to love ourselves so we can extend this kindness to ourselves and others. And because we have the power, we can heal our lives, we can improve our lives. So what we give out comes back to us, says Louise. If you're dedicated to seeing the good in people, if you're dedicated in seeing the good in circumstances, then you are a practitioner of this teaching. But it's a practice because it's tough. It's tough seeing good in yourself 100% all the time. It's tough seeing the good in others. It's tough, as Louise Hay would say, I love the world the way it is. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. She said, I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful, acceptable just the way I am. I love myself the way I am. I've known those lyrics for over 20 years. The thing is, embodying them and bringing them in and getting to the point where I never, no matter what I do, I have to love myself enough to give myself compassion. And I need to extend that to other people. See, if I'm not holding any grievances with other people or myself, I'm living in a different plane. I'm leveling up. I'm being about my Father's business, as Jesus would say. You take yourself to a different place once you remove yourself from all of that. Louise would say, you've been beating yourself up for a long time, and how's that been working out for you? And how's all that intelligence when it's put to being critical? How does that work? How does that make anybody feel? So what we want here, as we learn to love ourselves, is to develop a commitment to realize, to keep working on the idea that I'm one with the one. I'm living in this divine energy. I'm part of it. And everything around me is spiritual activity. Every encounter is a holy encounter. So I live, move, and have my being in it. When I see you, all of you on the call, I realize everyone here is amazing. Individualizations of this one life. So these are some of the things I've learned over many years, dealing with practitioners and 4 or 5 really great ministers, teachers, including Louise Hay. And none of these teachers were perfect. But the thing I remember about all these individuals is they were all committed, and they were all working at it, working on themselves. Bill T used to say, this is like a schoolhouse. We come in here and there's so many lessons, and we're growing, each and every one of us. Each of these individuals, including Louise Hay herself, made huge advancements and demonstrations in their lives. Just look at Louise Hay's life to see what she did with her consciousness over time. The healing of her body, the stratospheric prosperity, the love that she shared with everyone. I mean, it's an amazing demonstration. All of these teachers stayed the course. And I say that because I see people come, they love the teaching, and then they disappear. They'll say, oh, I read Louise Hay. It's like, I read the science of my textbook. Please don't read the science of my textbook. And why do I say that? Because it's not meant to be read like a book. It's a reference book, and it's put together, and there's a concordance with it. It's really wonderful. But Louise Hay's book is much easier to work with. So here's the thing. These folks practice, and I want to say, if each of you keep practicing this teaching, keep focusing on the love, knowing that you are one with this light, this love. You're an individualization, loving yourself and seeing the good in yourself and others. You're going to have demonstration after demonstration. You will have a serendipitous life. You will start to see that misery is optional. You'll start to see that you'll start to develop positive expectancy. That's what practitioners do. Ernest Holmes, I can say it different ways. Jesus would say the kingdom of God is at hand, meaning it's here, it's all around us. We blind to it, blind to the blessings, because you can't see the good if you're focused on seeing what's wrong and what's missing, what's wrong with you. So what needs to happen is I need to have a new pair of glasses, like Chuck C. would say in his book. I need to train myself to see the good. And that would be, so many other teachers have said the same thing. I need to train myself to see the good. And as I learn to do that, I will see it, because it's here. The Course in Miracles would try it from another angle. They would say, miracles are natural. When you're not experiencing them, something's gone wrong. It simply means that I'm stuck somewhere. Another saying from Ernest Holmes is, the universe can't do for me what it can't do through me. Lately, I've heard that people have signed off, by the way, when I use the word God. I try not to use the word God very often because I know it bothers some people. So I'll use the word the universe, I'll use the word higher power, I'll use every word that you can imagine. When I was studying philosophy, I remember one of my teachers saying, when you're trying to describe this divine energy, you're really trying to talk about something that cannot be named. But the fact of the matter is, this something is in everything, everywhere. People turn to different names for this higher power. I don't have any hang-ups about it personally, but I know somehow people, whenever I bring up that word, we lose a few people. I hope everybody could start to entertain the idea that whatever this energy is, it's going to be much bigger than any name that any one of us could put upon it. It's important for us to understand that this power works for us by working through us. So if I want to have a more prosperous life, I need to develop a more abundant consciousness. If I want to have better relations with humankind, with people, places, and things, then I need to become more loving. It can't do for me what it can't do through me. If I want to have the goods that are here, the goodies, all the benefits of life, the kingdom is at hand, then I need to open up myself to that. Louise Hay would ask us the question directly, what are we approaching the ocean of life with? And she'll specifically say, what container are we bringing with us? So this happens to be like a 16-ounce water glass. Some of you are carrying a thimble, some of you are carrying the huge containers. The idea is the universe will give to you. It denies you nothing. So I'll use the word now. God can't do for us what it can't do through us. So we want to be open. We want to be receptive. We want to imagine ourselves with big containers that I am connected with all supply. And any name you want to use for the higher power is perfectly fine with most of us because we're not attached to names. I was taught at one point in my life, it was very helpful, this phrase, it's a presence. It's never an absence. That was a helpful phrase. This thing that we're talking about again is a presence. It's never an absence. It's always there. That story is told very clearly in the story, the Christian story about the prodigal child, which is, I think, the best parable in that whole book, which is that we're born in this kingdom. We're heir to everything. We go off because we have free will. We go to the far country. We stumble and we fall and we do everything we do. We fall asleep. We forget who we are. And in this story, I won't give you the whole story. The prodigal child remembers, and he turns metaphorically to the father, and the father rushes to the prodigal child. So the idea is we live our lives and we forget. And Louise Hay would say, remembering and forgetting is the game we play. So when we remember, when we stay connected, we do our meditations daily and we take the pause to remember, take the pause to refresh that I'm connected with this one, I'm one with this one. When we take the time to remember this, we're restored. When we keep working with it, knowing that I'm one with the one, that there's power at my disposal. Ernest Holmes would say, yes, you know, there's a huge bank account downtown with your name on it, with every type of good that you can imagine. All we need to do is learn how to access the good. You come to classes like this and we'll teach you. We'll teach you as best we can to open up the floodgates of good that are there, deep at the center of your being, where everything is. We look for God, we look for source in many, many places. I know I did when I was younger. There wasn't a place I didn't go to. I was everywhere. But what you learn eventually is it is a journey without a distance. And it's been the best kept secret of all time. You know, God in you, the hope of your glory. So, Ernest Holmes once again said there is this power greater than we, of which we're part, right? And we can use it. It's important to understand that this power can work in either direction. If you keep saying your life is terrible, you keep complaining about your health, complaining about your wealth, if you think the world is falling apart and you buy into all that and you just turn on that television and just let yourself be, exposed to it, if you nurture thoughts that how the unfairness of life and all of that, then the universe responds to every thought. You get to be right. So think about that. So for many, many years, probably over 30 years, people suggested to me, limit the TV. Especially now, TV, you could watch news 24 hours a day or things like that. We might have been better off years ago when there was a newspaper, the morning news, you'd read it and then you'd be done. Because whatever you're going to spend your time thinking about, what you think about comes about. You've heard that expression before. Whatever it is that you dwell upon, you get to be right. So it's not a question of who's right or wrong. If you maintain it's this, the sky is falling and you don't understand, ain't it awful? If that's the way you want to do it, you get to be right. Ernest Holmes would suggest, and Louise, hey, whatever you put out comes back to you. You get to be right. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, it's a quote I've always loved, the finite, meaning you and I, the finite alone suffers, because the universe is there in smiling repose. He says the universe lays back in smiling repose. Humankind will suffer, right? But Holmes and others have written, misery is optional, or suffering, this was Holmes, suffering is not God ordained. So, life wasn't meant to be a struggle. We don't have to be struggling. We struggle because we resist what is. The universe isn't out to get anyone. It's always attempting to woo you, according to Emerson. It's attempting to get your attention. Again, deep at the center of your being is this divine activity. It radiates out from you. You can go there. It's recommended by me that you go there as often as you can. It's good if you could come here once or twice a week, because we're great for reminding you, but it'd be really better if you found some timeouts in any given day so you could remind yourself also. Louise would say, deep within you, there's an infinite well of love attempting to radiate out from you. It'll guide you if you allow it. I mentioned the practitioner Mary, who took me on as her project. She told me that when I was younger, that you're praying when you're in trouble. She says your whole life is a prayer, Greg. The universe so loves you that it responds to your every thought. So if we're dedicated to seeing the God and the good in people and circumstances, then you are a practitioner of this teaching. And if someone is called to be a practitioner, it's similar to wanting to live a little bit like a mystic. The commitment is to realize that you live in this divine energy, you're part of it, and what we want to do then is understand that you are part of spiritual activity, and everything you're recognizing in your day-to-day life is spirit. So this is what I've learned over a lot of years dealing with all these ministers. None of them were practitioners, but they all kept working at it. So I've told you that this power can work in either direction, right? So if you keep saying your life is terrible and you keep saying the world is falling apart, then that's going to be your reality. You get to be right. Okay, I've just been given the time signal. I've got to wrap this up in another few minutes. So here's the thing. You get to be right. The universe is not out to get anyone. It's always attempting to get your attention. It's always wooing you. Spirit speaks to us through our dreams, our quiet moments. Louise Hay would say that, again, deep within your being is an infinite well. There's this connection. You are connected to it. It'll guide us. It will guide you if you will allow it to. Now, we often ignore this guidance. Some of us just won't listen to it. Spirit is persistent, though. We have this old adage in religious science. Same song, different verse, a little bit louder and a little bit worse. And that was from a lady minister I used to be friendly with. And she would say, if you don't get the lesson this time, it's going to come back in and it'll be a bigger lesson. So Spirit is there for us to, it's there to woo us, to guide us. We have an internal guidance system. There is something within you that's always attempting to guide you. so that you can step out of or step back from whatever happens to be holding you back. Because all of us are here to grow, to evolve, every last one of us. I'm going to wrap this up with an affirmative prayer, and then I'm going to turn the microphones over to all of you so you can share what it's been like being you, or your thoughts on the lesson, or anything you need to. So I recognize and I know that there's power. There's one power that's in everything, everywhere. One power, one presence, one infinite intelligence that permeates the universe. This divine something, this energy, is the source of life, the source of love, the source of wisdom. I'm one with this divine presence, this power, this infinite intelligence. It flows through me, around me, expressing as my very being. And knowing this, I affirm that I'm whole, perfect, complete. I release the need to doubt myself. Again, I affirm I'm whole, perfect, and complete. I release all thoughts of lack and limitation. I embrace the infinite well of love within me, allowing it to come forth from me to radiate in all directions. I trust that the universe responds to every thought I think, and I therefore choose thoughts of health, prosperity, joy, and peace. I'm grateful for the guidance, the divine guidance that's always available. I give thanks for the blessings that are already present in my life, and for this wonderful community, for the love and support we share, and for the growth and transformations that occur, that we experience together. I release this idea now into the infinite mind, knowing it is already done, and so it is. So thank you all for being here today, and for those listening, and for participating in our journey together. I want to invite those of you on the Zoom call for a moment to say hello and share your thoughts. We usually have at least a couple of minutes. And if you don't feel like sharing, you don't have to. It would be nice for anyone new to say hello, where you're from. Again, we have time for everybody. Your presence here is a gift, and we look forward to hearing from each and every one of you who desires to share. And thank you. And so it is.